has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder.
He used to tell us, when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Zombies, man. They creep me out.
You want me to show you how? For the camera? For history?
That's enough, Deb. I got it.
We gotta get these things to learn to eat something other than us.
It's Father's Day, and I got my cake. Happy Father's Day.
And we're back with the Three Dudes of Horror. I am Toots.
Worm boy.
Damien.
And tonight we're going to have a tribute show for the late George Romero. He died, when was it, last weekend, right? It was like the 15th.
Yeah. 16th.
Yeah, it's like the 15th or 16th. It was the 16th.
The Godfather.
Yeah, the Godfather of the zombie movie, the zombie genre that is completely popular now. So if it wasn't for him, and John Russo that wrote the original Night of the Living Dead, we wouldn't, and the fact that he directed it, obviously, we wouldn't have this zombie genre that we know today.
Like The Walking Dead and
Walking Dead,
Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah,
like all those awesome shows.
Yeah, and I remember, and I was talking about this a few minutes ago, where my older brother actually met George Romero at.
Oh, really? Where?
It was for an Alamo Drafthouse event.
Awesome.
That's fucking sweet.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah,
what did he tell you?
No, well, I remember he mentioned it to me in passing. I remember.
Yeah.
Where he was like, "Oh yeah, I got to meet George Romero," and I'm like mentally, I was like, "Oh, you bastard!" And you met him, because I wanted to meet him. And he got his autograph. I think he had the poster of Karen. Remember the zombie, the one that you gave me for Christmas.
The famous one
that you and Debbie gave me for Christmas.
The famous Night of the Living Dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
poster.
like he got that autograph by George Romero.
Steal it from him.
Yeah, you shouldn't just replace it with the one they got you.
I'll try. But I remember watching this movie, the original Night of the Living Dead, when I was about 9 years old.
Dang.
And my older brother said he bought it. I think my parents bought it for my birthday. I actually want to discuss this with my older brother and just see who's remembers it more clear. But I remember watching it, and it scared me so much that I in the scene where Karen is eating Harry, after Harry's already dead. I had to stop it because I was that scared.
For real?
Yeah.
You were watching it alone, or what?
I was watching it alone. Yeah.
Oh. Well.
And I remember I didn't finish watching it until maybe a year or so later, because that's how much it scared me. And I remember that it scared me so much, and it was around the time where the remake was coming out, the Tom Savini one.
Mm-hmm. I like that one.
And I remember I like that one too. And I remember seeing TV spots for it, and and I got even more scared because I was like, oh god, yeah. So I remember it came out I remember we got it around 1990, and but yeah, I managed to watch the rest of the movie later, and of course I loved it. But at that point in time, I finally kind of faced my fear of the movie.
Yeah.
And I learned to appreciate it, and then I saw the remake afterwards. But so I grew up watching, George Romero's movies, and not just Night of the Living Dead and Dawn and Day, but also Creepshow. And I remember some friends of mine and I rented Monkey Shines, I remember liking it. I saw it twice, and I remember liking it. And it is, looking back on it, it is kind of hokey, because it's about this guy that gets injured, this athlete that gets injured. He becomes a quadriplegic, So he's paralyzed from the neck down, and so he needs something or somebody to help him. So they've been experimenting with these monkeys to make him smarter. So this monkey helps him around the house, and then at some point, the monkey gets jealous of the people that are around him.
Mm-hmm.
So the monkey starts to kill off,
Shit.
those people and people that have wronged him. And it comes to the point where he has to face the monkey, and then it sounds weird. It sounds absurd, but it is. Weird. I remember liking it. It was a good movie.
Is that the movie that he did right after Night? Or
no, this was like
before.
This movie was like 87, 88.
Oh, okay.
But so I would say check it out. Just if anything, at least just to to make sure that I'm correct. But yeah, from what I remember, I remember liking that movie. Damien, do you have any
well, I mean, I primarily, as far as his movies, I primarily know like the zombie movies, his 5 zombie movies. But when I was doing research for this show, I was reading about Martin and Bruiser, which I haven't seen.
I haven't seen those two.
And now I actually want to see them. I think I'm gonna fire stick them and see, because they seemed interesting. Like it had but I mean, like George Romero, the guy, the person, like aside from his movies, like I always the thing that I respected about him was like he never like wanted to be like in the Hollywood machine, like he hated producers, and like he always just wanted to make his movies his way, and that's what he did. And like it took him a while to get the movies financed because of that, because he was like such a rebel. And so a lot of times there were like long periods between movies. But I always respected him for how intelligent his movies were too. Like there's always the political subtext of the time, the political climate of the time that the movie came out. And I remember reading a quote from him that he actually said that it turned out to be a good thing that there was so much of a time disparity like between his movies, because all of his movies are like an allegory of the political climate of that time that the movie was released. Like, so that's what I admired about him. He was a rebel.
And saying like that he's a rebel, I mean, from what I've known about him, I mean, it's not so much his movies, it's more like the influences he had like on the Misfits, which the Misfits were a big fan of them, and in their music, he was able to direct one of the zombie music videos they had, and he had said like one band he would actually do that for, because a lot of other bands wanted him, to direct a music video, but he was like, no, like thank you for the gesture, but the only band he did it was the Misfits, and he directed the music video Scream, and it's an awesome video. I like the Misfits too, but after that the Misfits paid him back the favor, and they played 2 songs for the movie Bruiser, and from what I hear it was like an even exchange, which is pretty cool, I think. Because I mean, like you said, Damien, like he was rebel, and the Misfits music is punk rock.
Yeah, George Romero that says it all right there, man. Like he was just like the essence of punk rock in Hollywood. Like he was like the fact that he would only do a music video for the Misfits and nobody else. Like,
that's who he was,
and but yeah, he was a rebel in terms of the Hollywood landscape, because I think in his career he only made maybe just 2 or so like studio films, which I think was Monkey Shines and The Dark Half, which is based on a Stephen King book. And because I remember at that point I think he was just kind of sick of it, that is like, okay, I'm going back to independent filmmaking.
Because he was probably happier doing that.
Because he got to call his shots, and then when he was making Diary of the Dead and Survival,
and I remember Diary of the Dead before it came out. I remember Toots having a gripe because he's like, man, that was my idea, but then you're like, you know what? But Romero did it. Like,
Did I tell you the story, Damon?
About the
script?
Yeah, about the script at the bookstore.
Yeah. I wrote a script. This is gonna sound so stupid in hindsight, but a part of me still kind of wants to write if I can find it. I have to update it completely, but back in about 2005 or so, I remember I was like, yeah, maybe we should do a zombie movie, this and that, and my friend James gave me the idea of like, why don't you have a zombie movie happen in the middle of making a zombie movie? And I was like, that's a great idea. And I remember the way I wrote it, or whatever I did write from it, I gave everybody that I knew lines, cause like Ruben was in it, and like Emmett was in it, and I wrote lines for everybody, but they weren't like, you have to say this. I just kind of based it on what you would say.
Yeah.
Because it was like a non-script, I guess you could say, where I was gonna film it, and then you guys just say whatever you want, as long as it was within the
like
parameters.
George Romero, how he wanted a lot of his scripts to be raw and like more organic, like how you always say.
Yeah, and so it was gonna take place like at my friend Mike's house when he still lived in Brownsville, because it was a really old, creepy, haunted place, and like the bookstore that we worked at one point. I'm not gonna name which one, but
this was basically gonna be your tribute to Romero, pretty much.
Yeah, it was gonna be it was gonna be kind of like Diary of the Dead, but like with a much lighter tone, because like knowing us, we'd still kind of talk shit to each other and joke around, and then I was like, okay, how would we behave if we were in this situation?
Yeah.
It was gonna be Diary of the Dead meets Shaun of the Dead.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't really have Shaun of the Dead in mind. It was more just like, how would we react to shit like this?
And I remember watching Diary of the Dead, and it's not, in my opinion, it's not his best, but it's still good. It's out there, but of course, Night of the Living Dead is probably my favorite.
Yeah, and then but you can ask Wormboy and your wife and everybody that we hung out with at the time that I had this idea and I was already writing it, and then I got busy with school and I kind of left it alone.
Maybe we should actually shoot it as a tribute to George Romero.
Yeah.
Someday.
But I found it so funny where it's just like I had this idea, well, thanks to my friend James, but
yeah.
So we had this idea and I wrote it like, not kind of like I said, almost like a comedy, but mainly it was just us just bantering with each other. And it was a zombie movie being made during a zombie apocalypse, like the beginning of it. And then once I heard that Romero was doing Diary of the Dead, and I heard the premise of it, and I was like, oh, that's bullshit. Like, that's my idea. And then, but I quickly came to terms with it, like you said, and I was just like, well, at least he's doing it. At least, the master is doing it.
Yeah.
And like I said, like, it wasn't one of his best, but I still enjoyed it. So it does kind of have a special place in my heart because of those circumstances.
Yeah. And I think another part that maybe a lot of people that are more into the movie side, like, yeah, I know, like, I mean, I said in another podcast, like, I'm a big zombie fan, like, Walking Dead especially.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I used to be obsessed playing Black Ops, the zombie mode. And, I mean, there was one where he came out as the villain. Is this, I don't know if you remember Toots playing.
Yeah, I think so.
You got to choose Michael Rooker, Buffy, the Vampire Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the other two.
Robert Englund.
Robert Englund,
Englund.
and I think Danny Trejo.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole thing is to defeat George Romero. And it's funny because it has a whole story to it. He's like, he's trying to film this Nazi Germany film, and he's doing research, but in the mix, he himself becomes this zombie, but he tries to prevent you from advancing in the level.
Mm-hmm.
So what you have to do, you have to kill him, of course, but it's just so fucking hard. Like, I never passed it. I know I've seen it online, people pass it, but it's so difficult. But I remember that. He had a lot of influence to the zombie franchise in the video games. Like, zombies is still huge right now. Like, that's all you see. And I remember playing it like 24 hours some days.
Well, you know something I read about Romero when I was researching for this was that he actually kind of like resents how big and mainstream like the zombie subgenre has become now, like Walking Dead, and
I heard about
because
that.
he liked to make like very small budget, gritty, practical effects zombie movies, and he kind of like resented how now if you make a zombie movie, it's got to be this huge budget with special effects, and he always wanted to keep it,
which is ironic because it's like he always wanted it simple, low budget, but like awesome. guerrilla warfare. Yeah, it had to have a good story and characters.
Which he did.
And of course they had to have the banquet scenes, where all the zombies just came and feasted on everybody.
And then Resident Evil, in my opinion, fucked it up.
But the irony is that now zombies are so mainstream that it kind of went against what he originally wanted to do.
It kind of dilutes everything, because they're like, oh, well, we've seen it before. What's new, Like, all these zombie movies coming out.
But he did say that he is a huge fan, he was a huge fan, and he did read, like, basically all of the Walking Dead comics or...
Yeah, but I remember I also read that he was offered to direct at least like a couple of the episodes,
but he said no.
He said no.
Yeah.
Well, Wormbo, you mentioned the first Resident Evil movie. Did you know? I'm sure you know.
Oh yeah.
That he was actually
was supposed
slated
to
direct the first Resident Evil in 2002, and because of creative differences, because probably the producers, the studio, were trying to get him to do it their way, and George Romero, in his true punk rock misfits fashion, was like, "Well, fuck y'all."
Yeah, I remember. I think I told you, Wormboy, where like I managed to read the script, the unused script that he wrote.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like allegedly. It's the internet. So, but I remember reading it, and it was long, but I remember reading it, and it did kind of jive with the way he would write. That I was like, okay, I'm reading all this, and it was a good script. Like, I enjoyed the script, and I remember and then I got upset because like I liked Resident Evil, and then reading it, and I'm just like, oh damn it, this should have been done.
Yeah.
Not what came out. It's like he should have been.
I mean, I haven't read the script, but part one, I liked it. Other than that one, after that, to me, they were just.
His was more faithful to the game. His actually took place in the mansion, and then later, like in the laboratories. So it actually kind of fit the game itself. It wasn't
supposed to be.
Yeah.
Is it true? Toots, I'm gonna ask you because I'm assuming that you know. Is it true that there was some sort of legal mix-up or something happened where he didn't get any money from Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah, it's true because the thing is when it's in the one of the special features for the Night of the Living Dead DVD where
he's getting nothing.
Well, the thing is
he got nothing.
Well, initially I don't know about prior to his death, but when Night of the Living Dead first came out, they failed to put the copyright logo and everything on the film. So because of that, it's technically public domain, which means anybody could just come and just copy it. So that's why if you go to the video stores, if there are any left, or you go online or whatever, and you try to find like all these knockoffs of, and I've seen a couple of these, and they're abysmal. Like you see these knockoffs of Night of the Living Dead where they changed different things, and they couldn't do anything until I think at one point they finally managed to get the copyright.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, but initially when the movie came out, like it was public domain technically. So
wow.
that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, when there's so many cool stories about George Romero, like when he was growing up,
Mhm.
like how he started directing when he was like 14. He was
Mhm.
making these little 8mm films, and he was doing a movie about like. Do you know this one about he was making like this movie when he still lived in the Bronx
Mhm.
because he was raised in the Bronx in New York.
I think I know where you're going.
Where he
with
was
this.
making the movie about the guy that came out of the meteor or something, and he was throwing a dummy that he lit on fire like off a rooftop or something for a shot in the movie, and he ended up getting arrested when he was 14.
Yeah, your wife mentioned that he ended up getting arrested and because he didn't tell the authorities that he was going to do it.
Because he was like 14 and he had no idea. Like
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the charges didn't stick.
No, they did. He didn't even. I don't even think he. I think he said he didn't even spend the whole night in jail.
Yeah, I think
They arrested him and then he was like booked and then he got out like maybe some odd hours later.
But yeah, he used to direct commercials also.
Yeah.
Before he started directing,
I forgot the commercial he was famous for.
It was a soap commercial, I think. And I'm sure you can find it on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
But like I mentioned before, it wasn't just the zombie films that he did. It was also The Dark Half, which like I said, it's based on the Stephen King book.
Mm-hmm.
I only saw it once. I
Was it
remember
good?
I remember I thought it was okay, but like I said, this was back when you could this was like mid '90s when I saw it. I think it came out like in '93, and I think I rented it like '95 or so. And then The Crazies also, which I recently saw. And like I said, it wasn't one of his best, but I want to blame that more on just budgetary reasons. And Martin, which I've yet to see. There's also another one called Night Riders that he directed. But other than the zombie movies, the one that will always be near and dear to my heart is Creepshow. Like that one will always be close to my heart.
Why?
He directed it, and it was in collaboration with Stephen King. And it has the Father's Day segment and Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill, Something to Tide You Over, The Crate, and then they're creeping up on you with all the cockroaches. Everyone remembers that one.
Yeah.
Everyone, like out of all of them, like they remember that cockroach one.
Something else that I read that was cool about him was that even when projects would like dissolve or fizzle out because of like creative differences, that afterwards he still maintained a good relationship and maybe even a friendship with the people that he separated from in those projects because of creative differences. Like he was professional, he didn't hold grudges.
Yeah, he wasn't petty. But
and he was actually the real deal. Like he actually graduated from film school from Carnegie University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So he wasn't like just like he was actually schooled. He was the real deal.
Yeah,
he was the real McCoy.
Yeah, but I think that all his movies, all his works have been very influential to everything, not just the zombie genre. To other works as well. Some other people have been trying to do it like him. Of course, it's never going to be another one like him, but where they try the guerrilla warfare, kind of directing, and I think his legacy is huge.
Yeah.
Well, from what you just said right there, I can mention something that I read when I was researching that Jordan Peele actually said.
What did he say?
When he directed, when he was getting a lot of praise for Get Out, which was a horror movie that had a lot of, socioeconomic, undertones and subtext. And he said, anyone that makes a movie, that makes a horror movie with, and I'm paraphrasing here, with political subtext or anything. You're contributing to George Romero's legacy because he's the one that started that. Like Jordan Peele actually said that. Like he gave George Romero props for that.
Wow.
Yeah, like
I didn't know that.
yeah, and but yeah, like in Romero's movies, you always have that subtext to it.
No,
And
I know that, but I didn't know Jordan Peele said that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But that goes.
That's respect right there.
Mm-hmm.
But that goes with exactly what you just said. More.
Yeah.
That that's part of his legacy. Like he's the one that started that in horror.
Yeah, and his legacy is huge, and it's gonna live on. It's gonna live on for a long time.
Yeah.
And
his movies are
and
probably
I'm
gonna be
hoping-
remade later, and they're gonna fuck him up.
well,
I like
the Night
Dawn
of
of
the
the
Living,
Dead.
well, the Night of the Living Dead one was good. It was really good. The Tom
Tom
Savini
Savini.
one, yeah. The Dawn of the Dead one was okay.
I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it.
I actually bought
Well,
it.
like with Tom Savini too, like his collaborations with Tom Savini
Yeah.
when he was really young, when Savini was still really young. There were times where like the studio didn't want Savini, so
Yeah.
George Romero was like, "Well, fuck y'all."
Yeah, yeah. In fact,
and he wouldn't, and he just canceled the whole project. Like he's like, "I want that guy, so I don't care. Like I'm not gonna do it with the guy that you want just because you're the studio." It was like total punk rock. Like fuck y'all.
yeah, and in fact, Savini wanted to work with him on the original Night of the Living Dead, and he couldn't because he was drafted to Vietnam. So Romero was making the movie while he was a photographer in Vietnam, and it wasn't until they were thinking of doing the remake where Savini's like, "Oh, I would like to work on the movie, that it's going to be remade," and Romero's like, "Well, since you couldn't make it to the first one, I want you to direct it." So he handed the reins to him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. I liked how though when he discovered Tom Savini that he heard as an actor, not even a makeup effects guy, because Tom Savini actually came to him in early projects. I don't remember which ones, saying, I want to do the special effects, the makeup effects, and George Romero was like, "Oh, I want you in the movie as an actor."
Yeah.
Like that he actually saw him in a high school play.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first time that he saw Tom Savini acting.
Yeah.
I was like, that's cool. That's cool that he actually went and
Yeah.
watched him in a high school play.
Yeah, and not just Savini, but Greg Nicotero also.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Greg
I didn't know
Nicotero.
that.
Greg Nicotero worked with Tom Savini, and then and even in Day of the Dead, he plays one of the
You
minor
see, if it weren't for
characters.
The Godfather, shit.
Yeah, he plays one of the minor characters, and he also
Everything's
helped out with
connecting
the
now, man.
yeah he helped out with the makeup effects,
I didn't know that.
and then it's kind of funny how Greg is works in he worked on Diary of the Dead, and now he's working on The Walking
Look
Dead.
at him now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's like,
And he's good.
yeah,
So he owes his start to George Romero for
yeah,
discovering him.
to Savini. Well, mainly
Well,
Savini,
Tom
but
Savini.
But
Romero
still,
also.
but if it weren't for Romero and Savini alliance,
Mhm.
it would have been different.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, I think he big influence.
Yeah.
Very big influence in the zombie genre and horror genre in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the horror genre titans
No.
that we lost.
And I know, I
Yeah.
mean, his smoking didn't. I know it contributed to his final days and hours, but from what I was reading, it was like he would smoke like 3 packs a day.
Yeah,
So,
he smoked quite a bit,
Right.
but I mean,
But I hope he rests in peace, and
yeah, because when I heard that he died, like, yeah, man, that one hurt. That one, I was just like, no, yeah. Even my older brother was distraught also. Like, he was just like, he's like, there are no words. He was like to describe.
yeah.
But yeah,
But like I said, it's not just his movies. I respected what
The
he
character,
represented
the
as a
person.
person.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
and he was and
He was rebellion. He was punk rock, and
Yeah,
his
and
movies
he-
were intelligent. He was saying something like it wasn't just for like the visceral violence,
Or just for the money,
Or,
It was,
yeah.
it was like he actually enjoyed doing what he was doing.
Yeah, and even with the original Night of the Living Dead, where he cast an African American to play the lead, which at that time was unheard of.
I know.
You know, so he was going against the system, and he was like, "No, like this guy's a really good actor. Dwayne Jones is a really good actor. I'm gonna cast him."
Yeah, as a lead role.
Because he originally wrote it as for a Caucasian, but once he saw Dwayne Jones, he was just like, no, I'm gonna cast him. Yeah.
And then it like inadvertently became like, you know,
A trend.
well, no, but like that specific movie, Night of the Living Dead, by doing that, by casting him as the lead role,
Yeah.
it inadvertently became like subtext for the political climate of that time.
Yeah.
You know, during the late 60s, during the civil rights movement and all that.
Yeah. And then also Dawn of the Dead, which the subtext of that one was more consumerism because it takes place at a mall.
Right.
You know, and even the line that Flyboy says, Steven says, is just like, you know, what are they? Why do they come here? He's like, you know, some type of memory, instinct, what they used to do. This is an important place in their lives, you know. So things like that, you know.
Well, how we were all talking about his legacy, how it'll continue, and he'll continue to be a major influence on. I mean, that goes without saying. It's George Romero.
Yeah.
I'll end my final statement for this podcast will be a quote from George Romero, which I think applies because he will live on in his legacy, and he'll continue to influence other directors like Jordan Peele, because George Romero said, "I'm like my zombies. I won't stay dead."
Yeah. All right. So, no, I'm not gonna try to top that quote. That's
you can't
that's an
really
awesome
top that
quote.
quote.
Yeah. All right. So this is the Three Dudes of Horror. So, Mr. Romero, rest in peace. Your legacy will live on. So for the Three Dudes of Horror, I'm Toots.
One boy.
And Damien.
See y'all later.